Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here in Hollywood, California. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It is an honor and privilege to have you guys joining me here as we, a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler, talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, a little bit of television, stuff like that. And, of course, it's just not a good day in this world unless Robert Meyer Burnett comes along and does it with us. Robert, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Every time an MCU trailer drops, it's a good day.
I thought you were going to say an angel gets his wings.
Well, that too.
Well, and we do have a lot of stuff that we got to talk about here today. First of all, of course, we're going to talk about the new SpiderMan Far From Home trailer that dropped. It looks like Mission Impossible is getting a bunch of other films. Wow. That Sopranos prequel movie just added a big cast member. All that sorts of good stuff. But before we get to any of that, we're going to go off the top with this. You know, I'm going to tell you, every once in a while, Robert Meyer Burnett comes in hot as a pistol. Just hot as a pistol, and he was piping hot over an issue today. Netflix has announced some increase to their pricing. Now, an average is going to be about $1 or $2 per tier, whatever it is you're on. So Netflix, they haven't changed their prices in a little while. It's been a while since they changed the prices. But I'm telling you, Robert came in ready to go on this one. Your thoughts on Netflix and announcing their price increases?
Well, they're doing a 13 to 18% price increase immediately for new subscribers, and then for older subscribers, these price changes will kick in the next 3 months. Now, here's what has me steamed. This was just a decision that they made right now, and look, they can do that. It drove the stock price up immediately, as you might imagine. But here's the thing. When does it stop? You know, these streaming services are going to have us over a barrel. And look, truth be told, they're creating great content. I've been talking about how much I enjoyed Sex Education, the show that dropped over the weekend. And I really like what they're producing. But it sort of gives me pause, because with all of the streaming services that are going to come out, whether it's Disney, whether it's DC Universe,
Hulu,
Netflix, all of these things, are we going to look? I cut my cable cord, but how soon is it going to be before I can't afford all the streaming services I want because they just randomly, arbitrarily raise their prices? I mean, I think it's, Netflix is spending a lot of money, and if they just need money, they just increase their prices whenever they want. I get it, but is that good for the consumer? What do you think? Well,
I mean, look, there's a couple ways to look at this. First of all, it reminds me back in the day when cord cutting started to become a thing. And by the way, I was an early adopter of cord cutting. When I moved to the United States, I never got a cable package. When I moved to Los Angeles, ever since I've been a cable cutter, I've never had one. But I remember back in the day, because I was like, oh, it's so much cheaper than paying for cable and blah, blah. And I remember some naysayers going, you be careful what you wish for, because at some point, everything's going to be a la carte, and it's going to end up costing you just as much, if not more, to have everything you want. And we said, pshaw on you. This is a new golden era. Turns out they may have been right. They like now because I'm subscribing to CBS All Access, Netflix, Hulu. I got Amazon Prime. We're going to get the Disney streaming service. Once Swamp Thing launched, I'm going to get the DC streaming service. I use YouTube TV as my. It adds up.
It adds up.
However, I will say this though: when you're talking about something like a Netflix, when you look at the pure amount of content. And there were reports that have been coming out for years. Every single year, the number one source of internet traffic is Netflix. Every year. So people are using it heavily. They have an amazing amount of content on there, not just their own content. And by the way, their own content represents the minority, the vast minority of the actual traffic to Netflix. It's usually just all the accumulated other people's shows that they put on. But still, when you consider all of that, Netflix is a ridiculous value. What you pay per month compared to value is always about what you pay compared to what you get, right?
Sure.
And Netflix on that level really is a remarkable value.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love it. I love Netflix. I just watched this crazy documentary called Struggle about this incredible artist. I never would have saw it unless I saw it on Netflix.
Right. So depending on what level you're on, if you're paying $16 right now, is paying $17.50, does that change Netflix from being not a great value to being or from being a good value to being not a good value, I would propose no. Look, I think Netflix, if they bump their prices to $30 a month, I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas, but if they did, I would still look at it and go, okay, as a consumer, does what I'm getting for this equal the value of what I'm paying? And even then I would say yes. So on that level, not to mention in recent years, Netflix has started cranking out more and more and more original programming, spending more and more and more. Well, yeah, you do have to offset that with the price. To me, the issue is this. As long as your prices don't become unreasonable, then I, as a consumer, am okay. And the fact that I'm also paying for Hulu and YouTube TV and Amazon Prime and Crackle and CBS All Access, that's not Netflix's problem. Netflix isn't worried about whether I'm getting Hulu. They're just like, look, we're giving you this product for $19 a month, and we think that's a fair value. And I think that's a fair value, so I'm okay with it, I got to say.
It just scares me a little bit.
Sure.
You know, if they need to goose their stock price, you know, they're leveraged to the hilt. They've spent a lot of money. And, we need to make sure our stock price is a little bit more stable because of things that have come out. They announce a price increase. They get their stock price inflated again. They can do a new revaluation of their company and maybe borrow more money if they need it.
But isn't that every company?
I guess
that every business?
I guess it is. I just, I worry about Netflix. I love Netflix, but I just worry about them.
Oh, listen, I worry about them too because, a lot of times I'll have friends of mine talking about this golden era that we're in right now because if you're a content creator, you got this thing to go to Netflix. And believe me, we produce a show here in this studio that's on Netflix. And I love it. But, that notwithstanding, I have always been a little hesitant. It reminds me a little bit of the internet bubble. Remember when that happened? It was like, hey, yeah, everybody pour all the money there. Internet's a great thing, blah, blah, blah. And then there was the burst of realizing, oh, yeah, we have no idea how to make money off this. I've always been a little bit worried that, yeah, it's great. Netflix is buying all these movies and paying for all these movies. And I've always been a little bit cautionary saying, guys, at some point the bubble on this might bust. I hope not. I hope they find the way to make it work. But I'll tell you what, if raising the price $1 or $2 a month is the avenue that helps them secure that and stabilize that, to try to keep that great age of content creation going, I'm all for it.
No doubt. I mean, Netflix, this might be the year Netflix wins their first Academy Award for Best Picture for Roma.
Yeah.
So I think all of this is a coordinated effort on their part.
Sure. Let's
Good
see.
on them. I just
hope it doesn't spiral out of control.
Yes.
That's always the worry. All right, let's move on to this next thing off the top. One of the films that they've been talking about doing for a while, coming out of the pages of Marvel, if not the MCU itself, is, of course, X-Force. Deadpool 2 introduced us to X-Force in one of the most brilliant gag setups in cooperation between the marketing and the movie itself I've ever seen. Because you saw the trailers for Deadpool 2, you're thinking this is going to be half an X-Force movie, and they just kill them all off right away.
Right.
Hilarious. But
great.
They've been talking about doing a real X-Force movie. Rob Liefeld's been talking about for a while. They were moving forward on it. Well, I got some bad news, Robert. According to Rob Liefeld himself, the creator of X-Force, and some people suspected this, but it looks like it might be official. Looks like X-Force is dead. According to Rob Liefeld himself, he tweeted out the following: pour one out for old X-Force, victim of the merger, $800 million grosser easy. Now, according to reports, there was still a feasible possibility that they could have done an X-Force. However, they would have needed to have gone into production within the next 2 months.
Right.
And there was no way that was going to happen. So it looks like X-Force is off the table. Rob, you hear this. What's your response?
Well, it makes sense to me. Obviously, Fox is still deep into production of both New Mutants and Dark Phoenix.
Right.
And there has been talk of reshoots and changes and this, that, and the other thing. Those are going to be the last of the X-Men movies Fox makes before the merger occurs.
Right.
And I makes sense. I mean, X-Force, there's a lot of characters comprised of X-Force over the years. And I don't think that anybody at Disney, they put the hammer down and said, no, you can't do anything with your characters. If it's not in production already, I think they said no.
Well, and really, they didn't even need to say no because if it's not in production already, there's no money to pay for it.
Absolutely.
By the way, also hidden within the paragraphs of that story is that Gambit's officially done.
Right.
They're saying the Gambit's officially done, which I got to tell you what, I'm a little disappointed. Like everybody else, when they first announced Channing Tatum as Gambit, like everybody else, I was, oh, come on. But then I thought about it for a second. And, I was very well known in my old show days that I thought Channing Tatum was the worst actor in Hollywood consistently getting work. But he worked and worked and worked and worked and busted his ass, and he got better and better and better to the point now today when Channing Tatum's in a movie, I'm like, yeah, I'm interested. I want to see that. And the more I thought about him as Gambit, the more I started thinking, this could really work. It really could work. Never know. And when it would have been a Taylor Kitsch Gambit, it is. So within those pages, so if you are somebody who's been looking forward to this X-Force movie, bad news, it looks like it's done. Will Disney ever do something with that? I don't know.
Not.
Not the R-rated thing they were talking about maybe doing anyway.
No. But if the script is good, it's always if the script is good. Great scripts are rare. And if they do have a good script, there's no reason why they couldn't turn it around and make that film. But I really do think the entire X-Men are going to be completely reconceptualized and they're going to start over from scratch.
I completely agree. With the one exception I'm hoping will be Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, but even that might be a casualty of war in this whole thing. We're going to have to wait and see. All right. Last thing off the top, and I didn't even know we should talk about this. There's some trailer dropped this morning.
Did it?
Yeah, just some random trailer dropped about some teenage kid, some John Hughes kind of comedy feeling thing.
European Vacation?
Close. It is Spider-Man Far From Home, ladies and gentlemen. Spider-Man Far From Home. The trailer, surprisingly, dropped today. At least I didn't know it was going to be dropping this morning. Spider-Man Far From Home. The trailer drops this morning, and I'll tell you what, it is delightful. I thought it was delightful. Your thoughts on it?
I loved it. I mean, first of all, there's a few things that struck me right off the bat. No one seemed really concerned about the rest of the world being any kind of a state of turmoil.
At least not in this 2-minute trailer.
Not in this 2-minute trailer. People seemed really happy. Everybody seemed pretty happy, which leads
Well, if you got undusted, you'd be happy too.
Well, that leads me to believe that this movie might take place before the undusting. And even though they have said before that this is the beginning of Marvel Phase 4, I know it comes out after Endgame. But what if somehow people said, well, what if it leads into when they're on the bus? I don't think that's true.
Can I address that one thing right there?
Yeah.
I've heard from so many people saying, well, in Infinity War, as Peter's coming home on the bus, that's them coming back from the school trip. You do not come back from a European vacation on a school bus with no luggage. So no, that's not the case.
No,
anyway.
Look, I just found it interesting. The fact that you've got Maria Hill and Nick Fury in the movie. Clearly, Nick Fury gives Spider-Man or somebody gives Spider-Man a new suit because he doesn't bring it with him to Europe. I loved all that. I loved our glimpse of Mysterio and the Elementals and whatever they are. Jake Gyllenhaal, he's a cross between Iron Man and Thor. I mean, I thought that was a great line. It just looks so much fun, and I really like that they've retained the high school milieu. I think that's so. It's so great that Spider-Man's actually in high school because the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield versions. I mean, he was supposed to be in high school, but I'm like, he's a little old. I never bought.
I bought Andrew Garfield. I did. I bought Andrew Garfield.
I just like these kids are real high school kids, and I like all the secondary players. I like the relationship that they're developing with MJ. It looks, and how funny is the Happy Hogan, Marissa Tomei, Aunt May scene? That was hilarious.
By the way, I don't know what leprechaun that Marissa Tomei has held hostage and tortures nightly to pour euthanizing serum all over her. She gets more attractive every year, and thus she has value. No, that
was another line that I thought
was hilarious. But Marissa Tomei, what the hell is up with her? She just gets more attractive every single year. It's crazy, and she's amazing. Couple of interesting things I want to point out in Spider-Man. First of all, you mentioned we got to see Mysterio. Let's take a look. Yeah, we did get our first look at Mysterio. Take a look at this. He looks great. There's something Asgardian about him almost.
Right.
Like if you had just shown, if I had no idea that Jake Gyllenhaal was playing Mysterio, and I just saw that picture, I would instantly say he's playing an Asgardian.
Yeah.
But I dig the look. So that looks really good. And I want to talk more about Mysterio. Let's stick to Mysterio for this. Let's talk about this other thing, and we'll go on to the next Mysterio graphic, which is this. First of all, we do see the fishbowl on his head, which is crazy. But I want to point something out that I found interesting in this trailer. Now, there are incarnations of Mysterio that the dude has no superpowers. He's an illusionist and all this kind of stuff, right? And by the way, I think we're getting a little bit of what's the name of the villain in Incredibles?
Syndrome?
Syndrome. I think we got a little bit of Syndrome here. I'll save the day, and it's
Right.
really his own guys.
Right.
So I think we're getting a little bit of Syndrome there.
Right.
But questioning about whether this character actually has powers, I noticed something. That triangle that I've got circled in red there, when you watch the video itself, the triangle is spinning with the eye in the middle, like it's a traditional kind of magic mysticism symbol that I think we've even seen in Doctor Strange. So I'm wondering, okay, are these magical powers he's using? Like, is this magic? So I thought that was interesting. That raised my eyebrow when I saw that. So when you watch the trailer next, guys, watch for that symbol. So it's like kind of like when Doctor Strange brings up his shields, right? You got rotating symbols and everything. Keep your eye on that. I'm not saying it's magic. I'm just saying, hey, it makes me wonder. Or it's just another illusion for it to look like Doctor Strange. But again, the fishbowl head is there too. So I thought that was interesting. But here's the other interesting thing, Robert, to go back to something you were talking about. In the trailer, we see Peter show up at, I don't know what you call the office in the United States, where he goes to get his passport. Passport, please. And they open his passport, and we see this. I want everybody pay attention to something here. Under issue date and expiration date, there is no year listed. There is no year. In a real passport, and I had to run and grab my wife's passport today just so I could look at it and double check this for sure. The first is the day of the month, which is 19. The second is the month, July. As you can see right here.
I carry my passport with me. Oh, I shouldn't do that because then somebody can do a frame grab
right.
like
That's a good idea.
did.
So you have the day of the month, you have the month, and then you have the year. And then you have expiration date, which is the day of the month minus 1 day from the issue date, the month, and the year. So we know
cheeky, John.
He just picked up this passport. So we know this is a new passport for him. And they've hidden the year. They've blurred out the year for the trailer. Listen, I've had people saying to me for a while, John, what if Far From Home happens before Infinity War? What if Far From Home happens before Infinity War? And I keep telling everybody, wake up, loser. Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal have already confirmed that this movie takes place after Endgame.
Are you calling me a loser?
Yes, and me too. But here's the funny thing. I might be the one who's stupider than everybody else. Because even though Kevin Feige has said, this happens right after Endgame. This happens right after Endgame. And I still believe it does. But then I see this in the trailer where they specifically CGI out the year. Even I have to admit, this smells fishy. Why hide the year? I can only think of two potential possibilities, Robert. I want you to know what you think about this. Option number one, that the date of issue is July 2017, 2018. That's the date of issue, and they say this happens actually just before the events of Infinity War. And they are hiding the fact that this is actually a prequel movie. The second possibility here is that they have just blurted out so morons like me will sit here and speculate about what it might mean. And they are purposefully trying to get us guessing. This movie does happen after Endgame, but they have purposely done something like this because these guys are mad geniuses over there just to get naive idiots like me to talk about what could this mean. Yeah. And here we are. It's talking about what this could mean. So I see those as the only two possibilities. What do you think is the most likely of those possibilities, or do you see a third?
Well, first of all, good on you for spotting that. I never would have spotted that. And second of all, they put that passport in there on purpose.
I agree.
Trailers have limited real estate. You've got 2 minutes of shots that you're going to show. And the shot of a passport, I mean, I know they want to convey that he's at the passport office, but why do they even need to put that in there?
I agree.
It's in the trailer for a specific reason, probably for what you just did. I mean, they wanted people to do that. That's a very clever catch on your part. I think, and I don't think you're a moron, by the way. I think that
I just buy into things like a moron sometimes.
I think that they did this on purpose. I think it's very cheeky. I think it's good on them. That's why I love what Marvel does. But they didn't show anything in this trailer that would indicate that anything bad happened on the Earth.
But then again, would there be anything in the trailer that would suggest something bad had happened? Like,
Well,
they don't want to reference Endgame. They don't want to reference the events.
No, they don't. But it also leads me to believe that whatever happens in Avengers Endgame,
Right.
however, and I believe reality itself will be changed, no one will remember the snap occurred other than, say, part of the
Really?
Avengers. If they somehow reconstitute the world, it will be a new timeline. They will change the timeline a la All Good Things, the final episode of TNG, to the point where people don't remember the snap. If the snap never occurred, things will be different. We're not going to go back to suddenly everyone's going to be unsnapped. That will happen, and there's going to be a divergent timeline created. That's what I believe, and that's one of the things I believe from this trailer. If this trailer takes place post-Endgame, no one remembers the snap.
So then the questions arise: are the giant, those elemental things? Was that Sandman? Was that Hydro Man? Was it all that, or was it some other incarnation, a machination of Mysterio, the Master of Illusion, to pull a syndrome and make himself look like
I
a
think
hero?
that's what it felt like to me.
Right.
You know, but then again, why is S.H.I.E.L.D. bothering Peter on his European vacation? Why do they just need Spider-Man? Why don't they call up somebody else? Like, why did Nick Fury and Maria Hill feel the need to go to Europe and get Spider-Man?
Unless he was already there and Peter showed up there. It's like, that's available to me. I'm going to go get this
That
kid.
could be, but I mean, how long does it take Iron Man to show up if you need him? How long does it take any of the other Avengers?
Isn't that the bane of all shared cinematic universe movies? Why didn't Superman show up? If you're in the
Could be.
MCU, why didn't Thor come and help? And that's one of the banes of the existence of
Could be
shared cinematic
You
universe.
never know, but
But
it's
listen,
all intriguing though, isn't it?
bottom line though, the trailer's really good. You know
Really
what?
good.
Particularly for a first trailer. For a first trailer, they showed us more than lately these movies have been giving us in first trailers.
Right.
It was a little bit heavier of a trailer for a first trailer, and I'm very impressed by it. Despite the fact that I confused him for an Asgardian, I thought Jake Gyllenhaal looked really good. I'm excited for this film.
Very exciting. It looks great.
Yeah.
And you know, especially coming on the heels of Into the Spider-Verse, I'm spider excited. My spider excitement is tingling.
All right. Listen, guys, let's move on now to our main topics of the day. How do we select our main topics around here? Well, it's really rather simple. You guys select them by emailing me your topics and questions anytime to John@thejohncampeashow.com. That's John@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you guys put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, please keep those emails to 90 words or less. With that out of the way, let's get to our first email of the day. And our first email today comes to us from Terry McGinty, who writes, "Hi, John. Okay, so my favorite video game series of all time is Uncharted. We haven't heard anything about the movie version in a while, and then I read tonight that the director from Cloverfield Lane, that's actually 10 Cloverfield Lane, is going to direct it now instead of Sean Levy. Do you think this is a good move, and how do you think this movie version of Uncharted is shaping up? Thanks." Robert, they did announce that Dan Trachtenberg, I've always never pronounced his name right, but anyway, the guy who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane did a really good job on that movie.
I love that movie.
He's now coming on board in place of a Sean Levy to direct it, which tells us, hey, there's still life in this thing. It is still moving forward. Tom Holland, speaking of Spider-Man, is going to be our Nathan Drake in this thing. What are your responses to this story?
Well, first of all, I'm with Terry. I love the Uncharted game franchise. I remember the first Uncharted was the very first video game I ever sat down and played all the way through to the end without, I think I got up for a few bathroom breaks. I was so entranced by this game. It was the closest thing to playing a movie at the time I'd ever experienced. It was almost 10 years ago. But it was, what a phenomenal franchise. So I can't wait to see what they do. And all the games have been great.
Yeah.
And the gameplay was always great. I love the characterizations. It's one of the greatest games for presenting characters. The voice acting is terrific. I love the supporting cast as well. I'm really excited. If they pull this off, it could be it could be the new Indiana Jones franchise, if, something akin to Raiders. Let's hope it's more like Raiders and less like Tomb Raider. And I'm excited. I can't wait to see this movie. Bring it on.
What's interesting is the last Uncharted game, if you don't count the spin-off one with the two female characters came out, was A Thief's End. And in that one, they gave us a glimpse of a younger Nathan Drake, the fly with him and his brother and stuff like that. And I'm assuming, I'm just assuming at this point, I'm not claiming insider information. I'm assuming that's kind of the direction they're going with Tom Holland. Otherwise, like, why don't you go with a Chris Pratt or a Bradley Cooper or something along those lines? I got to tell you, though, I was very intrigued with the Sean Levy addition as the director at the time. He directed a little film. Like, today we all talk about Stranger Things.
Right.
Sure, he's the producer of Stranger Things. He directed a bunch of the episodes of Stranger Things. Absolutely, I understand that. And a lot of people think of him, they think of Night in the Museum. I'll tell you what, he directed this great little movie that does not get enough people talking about, and that's Real Steel he did with Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
That movie was great. Talk about what looked like a stupid little throwaway nothing movie. That movie was great, and I was really intrigued to see him. However, Sean Levy, I don't think there's any drama here with him leaving. Sean Levy's schedule is just too booked. He's got a movie coming up called Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds, where Ryan Reynolds plays a bank teller who discovers he's just a character in a video game. So he's got that coming up. So they're either going to have to wait on doing Uncharted,
right?
But then he's got another movie he's connected, Jeff Bridges' Starman. He's doing a remake of Starman. So that's already also lined up, not just to produce, to direct. Then he's got a third one called Crater. I believe it's called Crater or Carter, one of the two. Anyway, that's about a kid who lives on a lunar mining colony. He's got 3 films he's supposed to be directing already lined up into motion, and I have a feeling that normally when we hear we parted ways due to schedule conflicts, normally I think that's BS.
Right.
In this particular situation, I think it's probably true.
Speaking of that, did you see the creepy trailer they dropped for Stranger Things 3?
I did not.
With the Dick Clark New Year's Rockin' Eve, the ball is dropping,
No.
but then it gets interrupted by some strange signal. I love, ever since John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness with the strange signals that were invading people's dreams, give me a weird signal that's intercutting with a television broadcast someone's watching. I love that. That's one of my favorite movie tropes give me a weird intercept signal from some strange laboratory. I'm in. And that's what they did.
The coolest thing to me here, though, yes, the addition of Dan is nice because, like I said, he did a really good job with 10 Cloverfield Lane. But to me, the most exciting part of this is, there is still life in this thing.
Right.
They are still moving because eventually you go here without hearing anything for so long, you start to wonder if it got scrapped. Apparently, they're still moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, again, the Uncharted franchise is so rich and so much fun. And the characters, the thing about the franchise is the characters are so great. And that's what makes movies anyway. To me, it's characters and story. It's always characters and story. It's not a franchise until you have characters and great stories.
All right. What's our next topic of the day, Robert?
Well, the next topic is from Jason Twiner. Hey, John, according to Variety, director Christopher McQuarrie has signed on to make the next 2 installments in the Mission Impossible franchise. This has got me really excited. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. How can McQuarrie possibly top Fallout? Anyway, what do you think about this news? What do you think about this news, John?
Well, I mean, let's be specific. Here's exactly what the news is that the email is talking about here. Variety wrote up this, and this is what Variety had to say. McQuarrie has signed on back to return to write and direct. I think that's important. He's writing and directing the next 2 films in the popular franchise. Sources also add that both films would be shot back to back, not unlike the final 2 Avengers sequels, in order to take advantage of the popularity of the series. I also think to take advantage of the fact that Tom Cruise ain't getting any younger. Take advantage of the popularity of the series, with the first bowing in the summer of 2021 and the second coming out in the summer of 2022. The release comes in 2021 to avoid conflict with Paramount and Cruise's next big adventure, Top Gun Maverick, which, by the way, Christopher McQuarrie also wrote, I believe. This is terrific. And it's so smart on a couple of... it's funny, just last week, one of our viewer emails was asking, should they even bother doing more movies?
Remember.
And we were like, absolutely yes. And in case you forgot about it, look at the box office results that these movies have had. Let's go back and look at these again. The box office results for these movies have always been incredible. First one makes 475. Second one makes 546. Third one makes almost 400. Fourth one makes 694. Fifth one makes 682. And the latest one is the biggest one of them all. Fallout made $791 million. And the audiences love them and the critics love them. Of course you make more. But I also think, like I referred to a little bit earlier, the idea that Tom Cruise is now well into his 50s. He can't keep this up forever.
Right.
Why not hammer 2 of them out at the same time and knock them out of the park? Which makes you think it might be kind of a connected story between the two that they released one year after the other. So, and I'll tell you what, Christopher McQuarrie, incredible. And Christopher McQuarrie has kind of become Tom Cruise's guy. Because Christopher McQuarrie has also directed Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. He directed Mission Impossible Fallout. He directed the highly underrated first Jack Reacher movie. Second one, not so good, but he didn't direct that one. And then he's also written other movies with Tom Cruise. Another really underrated Tom Cruise movie, I think, is Valkyrie, which Bryan Singer directed.
And he wrote.
And
I mean,
I really,
McQuarrie wrote.
with McQuarrie. He also directed one of my top 10 favorite films of all, or he also wrote one of my top 10 favorite films of all time, The Usual Suspects. Also directed.
He won an Academy Award for that.
Yeah, and so I love this. The fact that they are locking this guy in for 2 more films. Nothing wrong with this story whatsoever. What do you think?
I think it's great. And, here's what I think we're going to see more and more of this. After The Lord of the Rings, which everyone knows they were all shot at the same time, concurrently. I think with these larger franchise properties, especially like Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, shooting them at the same time concurrently is a really smart idea from both a financing and a production standpoint.
Yeah.
Because you're amortizing the costs. You don't have to start up a film from scratch over and over again. And you can sort of plan things out more, like especially it's going to end on a hell of a cliffhanger.
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
the first one. And
With Tom Cruise, maybe literally a cliffhanger.
And the story about McQuarrie writing Rogue Nation and Fallout was he was writing as they went. They didn't even have finished scripts when they started filming these movies. So this is really going to give the production team enough time to really plan and really create some. I can't even imagine what they're going to create for these stunts. I don't know what they're going to do. I think we might see them go into space. They probably are talking to Richard Branson or SpaceX or somebody. But I think it's just a smart move all the way around, and I hope it's a trend. I mean, for these franchise pictures that do well, I'm hoping we see more of this. I'd love to see. Look, I wish they would have done that with the Star Trek franchise. Do 2 movies at once.
Yeah, I mean, it does become a challenge because a lot of people say, "Why don't you always do this? Why don't you always just film 2?" Because it's a huge risk.
It's huge. Financially, it's a huge risk.
Got
Absolutely.
to know what kind of returns you're going to get on this investment. That's why Mission Impossible, they're doing that with parts 7 and 8. With Avengers, they did it 18 films into the MCU. So when Peter Jackson did it and New Line did it with Lord of the Rings, people thought they were insane.
It was one of the biggest financial risks in the history of Hollywood. It was a gamble of epic proportions that paid off.
Yeah, it did. But they do have to be cautious with it. But I agree with you. I'd like to see them with proven, financially rewarding franchise to then say, hey, this is a risk worth taking. Let's step up and give it a shot. All right, let's move on to our next email today. And our next email today comes to us from Omar94, who writes, I read up a lot on films and see that there are generally 1 to 4 production companies all making one film. Why is that? Why do big studios like Warner Brothers, Universal, etc., use production companies for making their films? Don't they have studio lots where they can just do it all themselves? I also wondered that. Robert, we do see a lot these days of movies we go into and we see, first of all, the Warner Brothers logo, then the Bad Robot logo, and then the New Line logo, and then the Lakeshore logo, blah, blah, blah. What's with that? Why do we often see these movies with so many production companies?
Well, there's a number of answers to that question, but basically how movies are made now. Let's say my own company, for instance. I made a low-budget film with Warner Brothers. That movie was brought to me by another company called Fever Dreams. So Fever Dreams is part of it. They brought it to me. My company, Ludovico Technique, then took it to Warner Brothers. So now there's Fever Dreams, there's my company, Ludovico Technique, and Warner Brothers says, oh, we want to make this movie, and it's going to be Warner Premiere because it'll be released by Warner Brothers,
right.
And then we want Joel Silver's Dark Castle Entertainment to also produce. So Joel Silver came on board
to get him involved
to The Hills Run Red to get him involved. They get his production company involved. He gets a little slice of that money, the budget. So they've got Joel Silver assures the movie's going to get made properly. Warner Archive or Warner Premiere is going to be able to distribute it. So you've got distribution in place. So that's what Joel Silver guarantees the movie will get made. Warner Brothers gives you your distribution, which is guaranteed. And then the 2 little upstarts, Fever Dreams and Ludovico Technique, were the people that brought the project in. So both you've got now 4 entities for this one little horror movie. That's kind of what's happening with these films now. There's people that set up co-financing deals. There's people that bring in talent. Like if Bad Robot internally generates something, like that's why they have their names on the Mission Impossible franchise and the Star Trek franchise. So they're tied to those franchises. Then Paramount's going to distribute those movies, and that's how you get. If a star comes on board, like a big actor, they have a Plan B is Brad Pitt's production company. Appian Way is Leonardo DiCaprio's company. So if they're involved, then they bring along their companies with them. If there's other co-productions or money that's coming in from outside companies, say European money, you see a lot of that in front of Paramount films like Hua or whatever,
right?
And Alibaba, or there's other foreign finance companies, Abu Dhabi. There's Imagine, I think, is the Abu Dhabi. So there's all kinds. Movies now are co-financed and produced by many different companies, sometimes worldwide.
Some people might be asking, well, wait a minute, Disney's so rich, Warner Brothers so rich, why do they need co-financing? Because it mitigates your financial exposure.
Yes.
It's very wise. On top of all the reasons you just gave as well, a couple other things to keep in mind. Number one, a lot of these big studios have sub-companies that they own. So just as an example, you'll have, you'll go into Incredibles 2, Disney Studios, Pixar Studios, Buena Vista Distributing, all Disney companies. So there's that. Another reason you'll sometimes see some of these, on top of all the great reasons that Robert listed, is the fact that oftentimes you'll have movies where there are complicated rights issues, where then you have to have multiple studios involved because they each own a certain segment of certain rights to a property. Friday the 13th is a great example of that right now. That's going through rights hell at the moment. So these companies will then say, okay, well then we have to do this jointly. Let's do it jointly and make it happen, sort of thing. So there can be many different reasons. Most of the great ones Robert listed, a couple of other little ones, but yep, that's why you see quite often, it's not just sometimes now, most of the time you'll see many production companies attached, and those are just some of the reasons. Good question, man. Thanks for asking the question, Omar. All right, let's move on now to the next question. Robert, what's up next?
This is a good one. Mason Conroy says, I always get a little sad when a show ends, and I never felt sadder than when The Sopranos ended. I had no idea they were making a prequel movie about it till they just revealed that Jon Bernthal and Vera Farmiga joined the cast. How did I not know about this? And the Punisher is in it. Why aren't more people talking about this?
Yeah, and what fans of The Sopranos are really excited about is David Chase, who's the creator of The Sopranos, is producing and writing this film as well. And one of the guys who directed a big slew of The Sopranos episodes, they've brought on to direct as well, and some other producers who are connected with the show. Just a week ago, just a week and a couple days, Sopranos celebrated, hold on to your hats, its 20th anniversary. January 10th, 1999 is when The Sopranos premiered on HBO. 20 years ago. But anyway, yeah, they're doing this new movie called All the Saints of Newark, I think it's called, or something like that. So The Many Saints of Newark is what it's called, Newark, New Jersey, of course. And it is a prequel back to when Tony Soprano was just a kid. And I think it's more focused going to be on his parents that we see from the show and things like that. And Jon Bernthal and Vera Farmiga joining up the Punisher and stuff like that. Just another great addition. I do wonder about whether they waited a little too long, because The Sopranos has been off the air. The screen went black on The Sopranos finale a lot of years ago. So do you think at this point how interested do you think the general movie going audience is going to be in The Sopranos? And they don't even put the word Sopranos in the title. What do you think?
Well, I think, look, if it's a great script, and if David Chase is not going to give us, there's a reason why this movie's getting made. Yeah. They have a great script. They have a great story to tell. It's a period piece. I think it's set in the 60s. Something like that. So, if like one of my favorite movies of the last couple of years was Oscar Isaac's A Most Violent Year.
Oh, yeah.
Was basically about the garbage strike, in New York. And you think, wow, why would you make that movie? It was a fantastic film. If you want to see a great movie with great performances. And look, I love looking at period piece gangster movies. Everyone loves Goodfellas. That was a period piece gangster movie. I mean, if we're going to get something along those lines. And what I really like the potential of seeing is Tony Soprano's mother. Yeah. Livia is one of the great villainesses of all television history. And it's too bad we lost the actress too early. In the middle of the second season, she passed away in real life. But if we see where she came from and what made her as ruthless.
And you know we are.
Yeah, we are. I bring it on. I mean, I can't wait for this. And it's along the lines of they've been secretly making a Breaking Bad movie too. That takes place
Yeah, I remember
after.
they were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've been shooting that. And I love this. I love when they do these things. I mean, look, I was excited for the Veronica Mars movie. It wasn't as good as I had hoped. But I mean, the fact that they're bringing Veronica Mars back. Come on, Marshmallows. Yes.
Here's one of the things a lot of people forget too. When people get into these conversations of the greatest television show of all time, Sopranos always comes up in the conversation. Always. And why not? It is one of the single most decorated shows in history. It won not 5, not 7, not 12, not 19, not 20. It won 21 Emmy Awards. 21. Nominated 112 times. Nominated for that. It is incredible excellence, big popularity. Again, the only question I have about the feasibility of the film is whether they maybe wait a little bit too long, and maybe they should have Sopranos in the title, but that's just marketing stuff. I can't wait to see this, and the addition of Jon Bernthal and Vera Farmiga, who just always brings it, no matter what, whether she's doing drama, comedy, horror, as she's been doing a lot lately. I think it's great news, so something to look forward to for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on to our final email of the day. And our final email of the day comes to us from Ben Eat Chocolate. Good on you, Ben. Who writes, while we saw a lot of faces in the Avengers Endgame trailer, it seems to give most of its focus to Captain America and Iron Man. This makes sense to me since these are really the two pillars of the MCU up to this point. My question for you guys is, do you think that Endgame will end up being more of an Iron Man-centric movie or a Captain America-centric movie? I know they'll both get lots of story and screen time, but if you had to pick one, which one would it be? Robert, we went into Infinity War, and it was really 4 stories being told. It was that of Thanos, that of Thor, that of Iron Man leading kind of one contingent, and one of Captain America leading another contingent. Civil War was clearly a Captain America movie because it says Captain America, but do you think they might lean a little bit more towards one of these two main characters going into Endgame?
No, as a matter of fact, I think, remember, in Avengers Infinity War, the rift between Stark and Steve Rogers is still very much there. They have not reconciled from the end of Civil War. And they never meet in Avengers Infinity War. Captain America and Stark never meet with one another. I think the crux of whatever happens in Endgame, the emotional pillar or the core of that film is going to be the Stark-Steve Rogers relationship. And something is going to happen where they're going to find out they either need each other, they're both going to die, one's going to die, maybe no one's going to die. But whatever happens in Avengers Endgame, it is going to be as much about saving humanity and the rest of half the universe as it is about the reconciliation of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. At least that's what I think.
I think one of the best and most talked about lines from Infinity War was when Banner, he's on Earth now, and Stark is telling him about how the Avengers split up. What, like the Beatles? And the line is this, Tony, and I might be paraphrasing here, Thanos is coming. It doesn't matter who you are or aren't talking to right now.
Right.
That's, and I know I'm paraphrasing, that wasn't word for word, but that line was really rather smart. And it's actually a good philosophy of life. Me and so-and-so got to have a fight over a shirt. You know what? You're going to die someday. Is a shirt really worth being pissed off at each other over or something like that? But yeah, I think you're right. I think when we get one of the pivotal scenes, I think, of this movie, regardless of the direction they go or how it ends, is going to be when Cap and Iron Man reunite. I think that's going to be a huge moment in this film. And I think that's going to be, I think a part of that conflict between them is part of the emotional weight of Cap, because I do believe, and I might be dead wrong on this, I believe in the trailer when we see him saying this has got to work because I don't know what I'm going to do if it doesn't. I think it's him mounting a mission to get Tony. I don't know that that's for sure, but it would certainly give a lot of emotional weight to it if that was the case, that he's got to go rescue this guy that he's fighting with.
I have to imagine that the remaining Avengers that are left post-Snap, and if the movie does in fact take place years later, Captain America is probably thinking to himself, if I hadn't gone on the run, he probably blames himself for this happening.
Maybe.
Because if the Avengers were still there, maybe it never would have happened. Probably not, but he doesn't know that. And I think the guilt that he is carrying around with him is going to be one of the beginnings of Endgame. And I think it's going to be wrenching.
And Tony could feel the same thing. Tony, if I had just had Cap's back when this whole thing was going on, you're right. That's a great dynamic that may bring them. But I think you and I both agree, though, that probably isn't going to give the weight of the focus to either one of them. I think it's going to be on the two of them, but I think not one or the other.
Absolutely, because they've been playing with this broken relationship now over the space of a couple of films. And that was definitely an undercurrent all throughout Avengers Infinity War. So
all right.
It's rough.
Okay, guys, listen. As we like to do here on the John Campea Show, we like to save a little bit of time and take some of your live questions. A bunch of you guys have been sending in live questions. We got a lot of them to get to, so we're going to go a little bit quick through these ones. The first one comes to us from Ben Hayusa, who writes, what does Ben write? He writes, I love how they added the classic Spidey theme in the trailer. Cool, fun trailer, though. Nice seeing Jake rock the fishbowl helmet. What's up, D-Wad? Oh, yeah, that was another great. I love Spider-Man. Respect him. Hey, what's up, Dick Wad? That was a great line. It's
great.
And you're right. That's the first thing, actually, Robert said to me coming in today was the thing about the music in the trailer.
The fact that they use, it's Michael Giacchino, I guess, coming back. What a great use of the old 60s cartoon, the animated Spider-Man theme that everybody loves. Spider-Man, Spider-Can.
Justin Luchak writes, what do you think of Greg Hardy getting a shot in the UFC, let alone being the co-main event this weekend after the domestic abuse issues? I don't think much. Look, there's a lot of things I have a lot of patience for and say, hey, people move on, blah, blah, blah. I kind of draw the line at anybody ever particularly, look, call it sexist if you want, fine. I got a real issue when a man raises a hand to a woman. I got a real issue with it. And that's why I loved that story on Twitter last week. Did you see that story where the guy decided to try to mug? You guys got to look this up.
You told me about this. It's the greatest story ever.
And I showed you the picture, right? This guy decided he was going to mug a woman and steal her phone and threaten her. Little did he know she was a UFC fighter, and the picture of this guy when the police finally showed up and pulled her off him, his face looked like a side of beef. It was awesome. But anyway, I have very, very little patience for look, and I'm not going to appoint myself judge. I mean, people have looked into it. I'm not going to judge anybody who decides to use this guy, but I'm just saying I've got no patience for that. So if it was me, he would never fight in the UFC, if it was me. Spencer Main writes, is Mysterio pretending to be a hero like Syndrome? That was exactly my thoughts, Spencer, exactly my thought. I'm a new hero. I'm Syndrome. I mean, Mysterio. I think that's exactly what's happening. Jacob Silvers writes, John, last night I watched the new Fox show, The Passage, and all I have to say is, wow, did you get a chance to watch it? No, I'm totally intrigued by it, but I'll tell you what got me even more intrigued by it. I was watching the football playoffs, and they featured The Passage coming up. I had no idea it was Zach from Saved by the Bell. I had no idea. And what if it's a Saved by the Bell shared cinematic universe?
It is not.
Oh, it's not, Zach?
It's based on books,
yes.
A trilogy of books, and they're great. So I'm hoping. I have not watched the first episode, but I love the book. So. And
I know nothing about the books. I just know that the trailers have got me. I'm on board. I want to see this. I'll probably watch it later today. Jack121 writes, quite a departure from the classic Spider-Man. May knows, new MJ, events are international, very refreshing. We knew Dusted Heroes were coming back, but do you think this was the right move considering the Infinity War ending? What other move did you have? Not showing trailers to the movie?
Right.
Because remember, it's not like Spider-Man Far From Home comes out in a year. It comes out 2 months after Endgame. It comes out 2 months after Endgame. It means we've always known that trailers for Spider-Man Far From Home were going to come out before Endgame, the movie, comes out. We knew it. And it is hilarious. Somebody tweeted me, say, John, go look at the official trailer and read some of the comments. And there are people in there complaining, now you ruined Endgame for me. I know Spider-Man comes back. It's like, come on. We've all known this forever. Nothing new here. Yes, it was the right move. You have to promote this movie. You have to put out the trailers. So I got no problem with it.
No, me neither. I mean, I thought the trailer looked great, but I don't think it necessarily has something to say about what happens at the end of Endgame or not. I really don't.
Except that something happens.
Something happens.
Yes. Yeah. Jesse the Savage writes, if Spider-Man hits $1 billion, what will Sony do? Nothing. Look, so I told you guys, I said this forever, the future of Sony allowing the MCU to use Spider-Man was all hinging on Venom. I told you, if Venom does well and Sony sees that they can make money playing in the superhero universe without needing to take Spider-Man back, then Spider-Man was going to be safe and sound in the MCU and Sony would want to keep him there. And I think that's done. It's done. Sony feels very confident with having a Spider-Man in the MCU. They get to make money from that. They're very confident now that they can make their own superhero movies without Spider-Man and make over $800 million. So they're happy with that. It's a good time to be Sony, my friends. Mason Barr writes, Gyllenhaal, embrace that fishbowl head. Embrace it. I'll tell you what, I didn't know. I had no idea if they're going to bring the fishbowl. I didn't want them to. I'll be honest. I think it's one of those things that looks fine on a printed page and fine in animation, but damn, it's going to look stupid in live action. We don't have a very big sample size. We only saw a few frames of him in that. I'll admit I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
There's one thing that MCU does really, really well. It's costumes.
Yes.
The costumes are great.
All right. Dal writes, what is your thoughts on the Vader fan film by the channel Star Wars Theory? Do you want to see another part of it? Oh, for a fan film, it's great.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's great. I hear some people, it's as good as the original. It's a fan film. Let's cool your rockets. It's a fan film. But as far as fan films go, it was wonderful. I had a great chance, and clearly I think they're going to go towards a Mace Windu in the second one. So yeah, I'm totally up for seeing a second one.
I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, it's great, but it's a fan film. But cool your twin ion engine.
Nice reference. Catholic Jack writes, the only times I have shed a tear from movies was Rose dying in Titanic and when Superman rises to destroy the world engine in Man of Steel. How about you? Well, I've only cried in my life, it's either 4 or 5 times. Only 4 or 5 times I've ever shed tears in a movie, not counting Best of the Best, which is the ultimate man-grr ending when Dahan takes off his gold medal and says, I offer myself as your new brother. It's like, if you don't get goosebumps from that, you're dead to me. Anyway, Life is Beautiful, the Roberto Benigni Italian film. I was literally in a theater in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, with Hell's Angels bikers. Literal Hell's Angels bikers. Nobody had dry eyes in that. Nobody. It's very, very few. Very, very few.
The first time I cried in a movie was Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, when Spock died.
I mean, first when he slumps over. Actually, I cried twice. And then also when Kirk stumbles over his words delivering Spock's eulogy.
The most human.
It kills me every time. The second time I cried in a movie was when, at the end of The Color Purple.
Oh,
when Celia's sister comes back from Africa and they're finally reunited. Man, I lost it. I understand it was Spielberg manipulating me. I loved The Color Purple. I love that movie so much. I love Quincy Jones' score. I love the way Alan Davio shot it. I love everything about The Color Purple. It's one of Spielberg's best films. I don't care what anyone says if they downplay the relationship between Suge Avery and... I don't care. It's great.
And then sometimes, it's rare, but sometimes like there's these movies where like, it's not just sometimes it's grr moments that make you tear. Sometimes it's sad moments. Sometimes it's like pure happy moments. Like for me, I remember just tears of joy when Jason Statham knocked off Han. That was awesome. I was so happy. Nothing? I
can't believe you have to. It took me all
Hashtag
day.
Dahan
It took me
had
all
to
day to calm down. It took me all day to calm down. Justice for Han Solo.
Okay.
Justice for Han. But you know what? I also cried at the end of Shawshank Redemption.
I thought it was the most awesome ending. It went and Stay Neho? Is that
Say What Now? Yeah.
Say What Neho.
The
I hope to see my friend. One of the greatest motion pictures ever made.
I
hope
by the way. Somebody makes. You know what they should do? They should resurrect the Universal Dark Universe and bring back an undead Han to take vengeance against Hobbs and Shaw.
There you go. See, Ben Rayner writes, what are your thoughts on Multiplicity with Michael Keaton? Might be one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies. If I did like it, it would fall under that category, guilty pleasure. I must admit, look, huge Michael Keaton fan.
It's fun.
I wasn't a big fan of Multiplicity.
Well, I thought it was fun.
I
just like Michael Keaton.
I like Michael Keaton too, but
Michael Keaton's best movie to me is Night Shift. Have you ever seen Night Shift when he plays Bill Blazejowski?
What was
Ron
the one?
Howard directed it.
What was the one with the car manufacturer?
Gung Ho.
Gung Ho. Thank you, fact checker Jonathan yelled that one out too. I really like Gung Ho, by the way.
Gung Ho's good.
Mr. Mom. Gosh, where's some of the other really good ones that I like?
Oh,
Anyway.
what about the alcoholic one, where he was the alcoholic and he has to go through AA?
Oh yeah, and then the one where he's in the insane asylum,
Yeah.
and they form that squad. Anyway,
Yeah.
we got to keep. Sorry, we got to keep. We could talk about Michael Keaton movies all day. Jesse the Savage writes, "I bet you, John, $20 that SpiderMan will hit $1.2 billion." Hey, I said on the show yesterday, I think that is the next solo superhero movie to hit $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Captain Marvel will. Because, unlike Black Panther, unlike Wonder Woman, unlike Aquaman, who were all introduced in previous movies, Captain Marvel was not. And that's the other thing about Shazam, why I don't think Shazam will either. They're coming in cold. I think there'll be big successes and big hits, but I think the next one will be Spider-Man. So yeah, I could see 1.2. I could see it. Mike Hill writes, can you confirm is Spider-Man after Endgame? All we can say is that Kevin Feige has said it happens after Endgame. But they've also said some things before that haven't turned out to be true.
Right.
So we can't say for 100% certainty. I still think it happens after Endgame. I still think it does. But you think it might not.
I think it might not.
We'll have to find out. Nathan Oswald writes, over under 10%, Endgame breaks Infinity War's opening weekend record. 10% is a small... See, I don't think it will, but 10%'s too low for me. I'd have to take the over. What's that? Oh, did I skip 2? Okay, I'll go back and get those 2 in a second. I have to take the over on that. I got to take the over.
With you.
Do you think it will? Like, let's say the line was 50% over or under that it breaks that record. What do you think?
I think over.
You think I'm going to take slightly under, but at 10%, I got to take the over.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Godzilla Love Campea writes. How could I skip Godzilla Love Campea? Godzilla Love Campea writes, it cost Warner Brothers $35 million to make it and cost $200 million for Aquaman. Which of the movies makes more profit for the studio? I do not think Aquaman cost 200. I thought it cost like 130, 140.
No, I think it was
Was it closer to 200 million? What was the final? I think the final box office for it was around 700 and something million.
Yeah, it was a very, very profitable movie.
Very profitable movie, but at $1 billion, I think you got to go. Now, also Aquaman had a much bigger, much more extensive advertising campaign.
Right.
Even then, though, I think probably Aquaman was more profitable. My guess.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. There's a lot of factors. And how much money did they have to borrow to make Aquaman? Because they have to pay back those interest payments. There's a lot of factors that go into making movies.
James Welsh writes, thoughts on the recent casting for West Side Story. Steven Spielberg's doing a West Side Story. Just cast a complete unknown to play Maria. I just met a girl named Maria. Yeah.
Suddenly my life.
Hey, look, I don't care whether somebody's famous, not famous. We've known them all our lives, or we've never heard of their names before. It's just about talent. If Steven Spielberg's found this girl, it says she's got the talent. That's all that matters.
By the way, Robert Wise's and Jerome Robbins, they co-directed the first West Side Story. It's one of my favorite movies ever made. And you guys should watch West Side Story because it's great.
All right. Luke1234 writes, any news on Movie Pass lately? Actually, I just got an email from Movie Pass today. They have 3, again, they've changed their plans again. Today, 3 new plans, a $9 for 1 movie a month, a $15 for 3 movies a month, and a $20 for 3 movies a month. But that also include IMAX and whatever. Again, why don't you just get AMC A-List and get 3 movies a week? So, look, we are seeing the last desperate gasps. Now, I thought Movie Pass would have gone under by December. I did too. So they've lasted longer than I thought they would, but they're on their last gas, so they're not going to be around much longer. Spencer Main writes, what do you think of Happy Aunt May relationship, or of Hap and Aunt May relationship? I'd be down. Look, I'll tell you what, we saw 6 seconds of it, and right. I thought it was adorable.
Me too.
I thought it was adorable. But Jon Favreau, when he wants to play that awkward, Jon Favreau can play awkward really great.
One of the best awkward moments in cinema history is when he keeps calling that girl in Swingers.
Oh,
that he
yes.
just gets her number and he keeps calling her at night.
Digging the hole
pro
deeper
tip,
and deeper.
Guys, if you get a girl's phone number, never call her the same night or 4 or 5 times and leave messages on the machine. It never works. Don't do it.
I'm going to counter that.
Oh, man.
When I would get a girl's number, which I was always too frightened to go up and initiate conversations with women, so it would always be when girls would come up and meet me, but when I got their number, I always called them the same day. Never leaving 3 or 4 or 5 messages, but I always called them the same day.
What if you got their number 12 at night in a club
or
at a bar?
Then it is, by the laws of time and physics, it would be impossible for me to call them the same day. Yes, I will submit that.
Well, after midnight you could, because you would then call them the next afternoon.
That would be the next day, yes. But yeah, I always did. And you know what? I always found it made an impression.
Look, I always called the next day. I didn't wait 3 days. If you like a girl, you call her the next day. And you be emphatic about that.
Right. Let's just
But
be
not
clear.
creepy.
You don't want to take women advice from either Robert or I, but if you have to choose between us, choose this guy. All right. I have nothing to base that on. All right. Let's see.
I've got some referrals.
Lee Melanson, I've got referrals. That's the next great T-shirt. Robert Meyer Burnett, I've got referrals. All right, Lee Melanson writes, this not my favorite iteration of Spidey, and the trailer didn't wow me. I don't recognize May, MJ, Flash from the comics, and Peter is Iron Man Jr. Well, I don't think this is the Iron Man Jr. suit. I think it looks very similar, but I don't think this is the Iron Man Jr. suit.
No.
So which I think is awesome because I don't like Iron Man Jr. But you know what? You're right. This is a different iteration. This isn't Mary Jane Watson. It's a different MJ. It's a different thing. Yes, Flash is different. But the difference should not be the thing that makes you embrace or reject it. Look, we've had the same Spider-Man, and this is still very much at its core the same Spider-Man.
Right.
But to change it up a little bit, I think is necessary. I think it's good, and it can freshen things up. And look, at the end of the day, it's either going to be good or bad. Whether they stay exactly the same, it's either going to be good or bad. Whether they change a lot of things, it's either going to be good or bad. Let's see if the proof's in the pudding. Look, if the trailer didn't work for you, the trailer didn't work for you. That's cool. But
So I also think that Tom Holland is our best cinematic Spider-Man. Now his supporting cast might be different, but Tom Holland is crushing it as Peter Parker.
Rafael Estrada writes, that bit with Flash at the end, Dickwad, was so great. I agree. We already mentioned that, but I agree 100% with you, Rafael. That was a great bit. Never mind, I still don't get likes, writes, don't let the trailer distract anybody from the fact that Aquaman passed The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. Did it? I knew it was closing in on The Dark Knight.
I
knew
haven't
that.
looked at the actual box office, but if you say so, but it doesn't
It was
surprise
close.
me.
It was close because Dark Knight, those movies weren't much over $1 billion. They weren't much. It was very, very close.
And remember, we didn't have the shared universes. The MCU didn't exist when the first Batman and then Dark Knight came out. I mean, things have started to really change over the last 20 years, or 20 films.
Lee Melanson writes, Ray Fisher seems like a nice kid from the Justice League press tour. Hope he gets work going forward. Maybe a Creed opponent, considering he played Ali on Broadway, which is one of the big reasons why I was always excited when they announced Ray Fisher as Cyborg.
Yeah.
They're like, but John, you've never even heard of him. I knew he came from Broadway. That's all I needed to know. You bring him from Broadway. You got to have chops if you're on Broadway. That's all I needed to know. I don't know that there's going to be another Creed movie, to be honest with you, with the last one being more expensive to make and making less at the box office. I don't think it looks good for another Creed movie, but you never know. But yeah, I would like to see more of Ray Fisher moving forward.
I would too. As a matter of fact, look, if Wonder Woman does well and Aquaman just did well, they could make another Justice League movie. You know, they're gonna. It really depends on they're building these characters up individually, and then you put them together in a movie, and a movie that's really cool.
It's possible.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's gonna happen.
I just don't think, even if they do, I don't know that it would have Superman or Batman in it.
I know.
Not sure at this point. ZOMG Ruler writes, Far From Home trailer, best of any MCU trailer in 2019. I'm going to disagree slightly. I think this first Far From Home trailer is better than the first couple of Captain Marvel trailers. I actually quite like the third Captain Marvel trailer.
I did too.
And so I'll take the third Captain Marvel trailer over this first Spider-Man trailer. I expect, though, that I'll probably get, because you know they're going to up it with the second Spider-Man trailer.
Right.
And I kind of expect I'll probably end up liking that one more. All right. Let's see. Murray Reich writes, what did you think of season 6 of Ray Donovan? I thought it was better than 5, but not so much. Still haven't seen season 6. I ended with that season 5 with that cliffhanger with Ray throwing himself off the building. That's the last I saw. I haven't got caught up on the rest of it yet. I hope it's better because season 5 was the first season I didn't really like.
I agree with you, and I have not seen season 6 yet either.
Edgar Navarro writes, all right, Campea, your Pats might have beaten the crap out of my Chargers, but congrats on the win, and we will see you next season in the playoffs. Man, Tom and Philip are getting older, man. These are two dudes that ain't getting any younger. I don't know how many more kicks at the can Brady's got or Philip. So here, let's put it this way, Edgar. I hope for both of us that we get to meet in the playoffs again next year, because I ain't so sure it's going to happen, but I hope for both of our sakes that they do. And I hope that the Seahawks are in the
You'll
running
see
too.
the Seahawks. Uncle Pete will be back.
They're
Uncle
a
Pete and
bunch-
the Jedi Knights of the Pacific Northwest. They're coming
They'll
back.
be there. Let's see. Rodrigo Ortiz writes, Robert, how did you feel when the Seahawks came back and won the NFC Championship game versus the Packers a few years ago? By the way, I'm a Cowboy fan. Sorry. Well, if you're a Cowboy fan, we're the one that's sorry.
That comeback was incredible.
It was great.
It was great. I mean, and you know, that was a great example of what I like to say. Uncle Pete makes a little adjustment during halftime, and they come back smoking.
Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, John and Rob, thanks for all you do. Love you guys. And Rob, hashtag justice for Han. Love you guys. By the way, I should point out,
That's what I'm talking about.
right after I left the studio yesterday, I got a phone call. I did not recognize the number. It was Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson calling me and say, "You're damn right, Han had it coming." I'm just saying. It was just interesting to hear that point of view.
I'm going to bring Sun Kang on the show one day. He's going to be live. If you're out there, Sung, I know you have like a restaurant in West LA somewhere. I want you to come on this show and represent justice for Han.
Easy Target writes, best Marvel trailer since Infinity War. Couldn't help but feel the rush while watching it. Gyllenhaal looks spectacular. Gyllenhaal, again, a little bit confusing him with the Night's Guardian. Still like the look, though.
Love it.
Still thought it looked really good. Roman Bryan writes, Doc Ock's last words, I will not die a monster. Best final words. That's one of the reasons why for the longest time Spider-Man 2 was the greatest comic book movie ever made. And is still, in my opinion, in the top 10 greatest comic book movies ever. And that, I will not die a monster. Oh, and what's the name of the actor?
Who played Cepito in Raiders of the Lost Ark at the beginning.
And he was also in Game of Thrones.
Alfred Molina.
Alfred Molina, thank you. Did such a great job in that. Murray Reich writes, which situation is worse, Cody Parker or Ashawn Jeffries? Well, it's tough. For those of you who don't know, Cody Parker is the Chicago Bear kicker who missed the last-second field goal that made Chicago lose and get kicked out of the playoffs. Jeffries is the receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles who dropped the ball that was thrown right into his hands, and it ended up being an interception and ended the Eagles season. I'm going to say it's actually worse for Jeffries because when they went back and looked at replay, they showed that Parker's field goal attempt was actually blocked, and the NFL has officially listed the kick as a blocked kick.
Right.
It actually went off the guy's fingers, which nudged it a little bit, so less his fault. But I wouldn't want to be either of those guys right now.
But you know what? Look, you can't judge somebody by the last bit of a game. Hence, Russell Wilson in the Super Bowl.
And remember, Parkey hit 3 field goals earlier in that game.
Yeah,
so I was
come on.
Raymond Verrata writes, Spidey and Fury are hiding out in the Sony universe. The 1967 Spider-Man theme made me tear up. It was good to follow up Spider-Verse with this movie. It's exciting. It just looks exciting. And I love Tom Holland's, he had the same reaction when he realized this is the second MCU character that just shows up in his room. Although that's a hotel he's in, but so
right.
shows up in his room and goes, you're Tony Stark. You're Nick Fury.
Right. It's funny.
It was funny.
I love that.
And let's see here. Watcher X writes, Avengers 3, biggest fan, but one thing bothers me, new Iron Man suit. Compared to previous movies, looks fake and seems like it can do anything. Felt cheap. How do you guys feel? Maybe one way to put him, maybe only way to put him versus Thanos. I'll say this, Watcher. I've mentioned this before. I love Iron Man in Infinity War. Love Iron Man in Infinity War. But just like I love Peter Parker, Spider-Man in these movies, but I don't like the Iron Man Jr. aspect of it. Love Iron Man in Infinity War. But the one thing I've said that's kind of bothered me is that they've gone from even pretending that Iron Man and his suit even have 1% of a toe in reality and feeling like it could be real to just it's witchcraft at this point. Tony's suit is just a magic suit. Nothing feels even remotely grounded in real Earth logic or physics. Not even that 1% toe that it used to be. It doesn't make me stop loving the character, but it is something that makes me go, I kind of wish they did something different.
I love that Infinity War suit, and I am dying to get the hot toy of that figure. I can't wait.
Oh, the hot toy looked great.
Great.
Look, I hate the Iron Man Jr. suit, but even I got to admit, the hot toy of him with the iron legs, that looks really good.
Really
it
cool.
does look really good. Shrady Bucks just sends a super chat. Thank you so much, Shrady. I'm Upset writes, is the future bright for the Venomverse? Hard to say with one movie. We got Morpheus coming, the living Morbius. That's a different franchise. We got Morbius, the living vampire, coming with Jared Leto. That's going to tell us, look, good start. The health of the universe, we'll have to see when the second film hits. I'm Upset writes, worst Zac Efron film, Baywatch, Dirty Grandpa, We Are Your Friends, Lucky One, or Charlie St. Cloud. Charlie St. Cloud. Actually, my wife kind of likes that movie. I got to go Baywatch. And I was so excited for that movie.
I was too. It looked really good to me, and I was bummed out.
I'll tell you what, the only reason I didn't get up and walk out of Baywatch was because a buddy of mine works at Paramount, and it was the press screening was at Paramount Studios on the lot. And my buddy, who works for Paramount, was literally sitting in the seat across the aisle from me. And if it wasn't for that, I would have got up and walked out of that trash. It was so bad. Curtis Lopez writes, I like how people think it's rocket science that Far From Home is after Endgame. I mean, I'm not going to put anything by Marvel at this point.
Right.
They've said it's after Endgame. I believe it's after Endgame. But then they pull little stunts like that about smudging out the dates on the passport. Some, I don't... We're all going to go in and we're going to see what happens.
Yep. The great thing is we're going to find out in mere months.
You know what? We're going to find out before Spider-Man Far From Home ever hits.
Right.
When we see Endgame, we will know for sure what Spider-Man Far From Home is. Let's see. Where are we at? Curtis Lopez writes, can Okoye lead Wakanda in T'Challa's absence? No. She's not one of the nobles. She's not from one of those families. She is Dora Milaje. She cannot. No.
I think M'Baku would take over.
M'Baku, if not, and I don't think it would be T'Challa's sister. I don't think it would be Shuri.
Right.
Because I don't think she would want it. And I don't think she would win in a battle of combat for the throne against M'Baku. It's got to be M'Baku. M'Baku has a legitimate claim to it. He's the head of the Jabori tribe. I think that's how you pronounce it. And he's just awesome. So
He
I
is
think
awesome, and I'm sure he steps up. I mean, the man's a hero in his own right. So after the dusting, he probably stepped up.
Ben Rayner writes, the Office fire drill, priceless. Oh, The Office. Yes, fire drill. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So many episodes of The Office that are just like pure gold forever and always. Amen, Ben. Curtis Lopez writes, the international trailer for Far From Home has some different footage, and from that trailer, it seems like Ned and Betty, the blonde girl, are a couple. Oh, still haven't watched it.
Yeah, we haven't watched. We were trying to. I couldn't get it to play.
Yeah, just before the show started, say, there's an international version too. We tried to watch it. It didn't work, so whatever, we'll watch it later. But that's interesting, Curtis. Thanks for putting that on our radar. Just have time for a few more here, guys. David Willard writes, good morning, John and Rob. I was wondering, Rob, what makes Moon Knight so great? And do you have any reading recommendations? Rob, I know you can go on for an hour about this.
I'll make it quick.
In general, what makes Moon Knight great?
First of all, I love Moon Knight has many different, well, not many, but when he first started out, he had multiple identities. He was Jake Lockley, he was a cab driver, he was Mark Spector, a rich billionaire like Bruce Wayne, and he was Moon Knight, and he did other things. But if you go back and you read the very first run of Moon Knight by Doug Mensch and Bill Sienkiewicz, that was the run that got me into Moon Knight. They've constantly tried to change the character over the years, but I like that he was a street-level character. Very, very Batman-esque.
And by the way, I've been seeing online a number of 1/6 inch or 1/6 scale Moon Knight figures. I don't think they're from Hot Toys, but I've seen some. Man, it's a good looking figure, dude. It's a good looking figure.
Yeah, I love Moon Knight.
All right, Javier Riaz 405 writes, great trailer. Mysterio looks cool. I wonder if Michael Keaton is in the film. I have heard he's in the film. He is listed on IMDb as being in the film, but that never necessarily means anything for an upcoming movie. I believe he is.
Yeah.
All right. Murray Reich writes, kiss, kiss, gang, bang. Yeah, no one's ever going to let me off from that. Okay, so where that comes from, what Murray Reich is referring to is this great movie by Shane Black called Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang. And it's great, and it's wonderful. And this one episode of the John Campea Show I was doing, Rob, I accidentally said Kiss, Kiss, Gang, Bang. And people...
That was a porn parody.
It was relentless on Twitter after that. It was relentless, and Murray is bringing it up again.
Wait, did you see what else he said?
And Han had it coming. Good on you. Just completely redeemed yourself, Murray. Thank you so much for bringing that up.
That's not funny, Murray.
It's
not
awesome.
funny at all.
BMC writes, love the trailer, but it cheapened both Infinity War and Endgame for me. We knew some would come back, but come on, have some integrity for your content, MCU. BMC, I say this to you as my brother in film fandom with all love. What the fuck were you expecting? What the hell? What were you expecting? We knew a Spider-Man movie was coming. You knew they were going to have a trailer. Do you think they weren't going to have Spider-Man in the Spider-Man trailer? I do not understand any of this. From the moment they died, we knew there was a Spider-Man movie coming prior to Infinity War ever hitting theater. Spider-Man Far From Home.
You know how I feel about this. I wouldn't have released it. I'm with you.
Well, you see, no trailers.
No trailers at all.
Those trailers. The new studio coming from our environment where they don't put out any trailers, and the studio goes out of business in 3 months. I just don't, like, what are we expecting? It doesn't cheapen anything because it in no way suggests to us what's actually going to happen in Endgame. There is nothing. Like, if it came out saying, Well, it's been 3 weeks since I came back from the dead, thanks to Doctor Strange making a magic potion in Wakanda and bringing me back. Now I'm going to go to Europe on vacation. It's not like they did that. There is nothing in this movie that gives us any indication, or in this trailer, that gives us any indication about what happens in Endgame. We knew this movie was coming. We know they've already announced a Black Panther 2. They've already announced they brought the director and writers on for Doctor Strange 2. We know all of this. Doesn't mean we know the resolution of it, but we've known this. This trailer doesn't do anything.
And in terms of marketing, a Spider-Man trailer comes out and we're talking about Avengers Endgame. This is brilliant, brilliant marketing.
Absolutely. Let's see. Andrew Markham writes, "Good morning, John. I've been watching since the AMC days. Those were good days. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you mentioning that, Andrew. And good to have you along, man." All right. Dim-Sum05 writes, "Aquaman, be careful who you call ugly in high school." I don't get it. What am I missing? Was Jason Momoa just not a good-looking kid in high school?
I guess I don't know.
Because I'll tell you what. I am as 100% boringly straight heterosexual male as it comes, and I would spoon Jason Momoa. That's a handsome dude.
He is a handsome dude.
That's a handsome dude,
he's a
man.
handsome dude. Yes. Yes.
All right. Let's see here. Hashtag spoon Jason Momoa.
Sandwich.
Let's see here. Where am I at? I am at Andrew Markham, who writes, "Have you seen The Favorites? If so, would you recommend?" Is that something different from The Favorite?
Maybe it's a typo. I just watched The Favorite.
Yeah, which is great.
I really liked it.
Performance is incredible. There could be 3 acting nominations coming out of that.
I really
with
liked it.
Cook, Stone, and Wise.
Yeah.
They could all end up getting. But The Favorite, I got this itch in my head that says The Favorites is actually something else. I'm not sure. Sorry, Andrew, I'm not catching the meaning. Akash Telly writes, "Really like the score in the new Spider-Man trailer."
It's great.
It is great. It's a blending
good.
of the old music with the new music layered over top. It's
Love
really
it.
kind of cool that they did that, especially on the heels of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Dro Williams, you know what I wonder? I wonder if that music was included by Sony as a part of the trailer, because of course Sony is the distributor, thus Sony looks after all the marketing. Or if it was a Marvel incarnate, or if Sony just did it.
That's a good question. Yeah.
I'd be curious to find that out. Let's see. Dro Williams writes, "First super chat, so let it be known I love Spider-Man." Dro, the world has now been put on notice that you, my friend, along with a lot of the rest of us, love Spider-Man, particularly the Into the Spider-Verse Spider-Man. Tom Holland's been spectacular. It is a good era for Spider. Last year, you had that incredible PS4 game. You had Spider-Verse. You had Infinity War. Now we're going to 2019. We got him. He's going to be in Endgame at some point. You've got Spider-Man Far From Home. It's a good era to be a Spider-Man fan, my friend.
Yes.
Dim-Sum05 writes, 1, Andy Bernard. 2, Todd Packer. 3, Kevin Malone. "The best characters in The Office changed my mind." Oh, I don't need to change your mind. They're not. They're not. But they are to you. And I don't need to change your mind on that. That's what they are to you. That's great. I mean, Michael is the greatest Office character, period. He's the best. I mean,
Pretty great.
Dwight was great. Jim was great. Pam was great. You know who I actually had a big appreciation for? Creed. He would have one line like every 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Like one line every 2 or 3 episodes. But the line was always, I still remember this one episode where Michael's trying to make an analogy. He goes, you got to put it's like spending $8 for worms. And just Creed's first line in like 3 episodes was, "You're spending too much. Who's your worm guy?" And they would throw in these lines for Creed that just made him gold to me. Absolutely. But hey, whichever order you love them, Dim Sum, I'm just glad you're watching The Office. The Stealth Prince writes, "Thanks for putting me on to Lucifer. It's so awesome." Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, my brothers and sisters, listen to me. If you're not watching Lucifer, oh my God, you got to watch Lucifer. It is so delightful. It's so fun. It's so risque for a network TV show. I keep telling the story about the one episode where a yoga instructor gets murdered, and the scene that Tom Ellis and the girl who plays their CSI investigator, as they try to recreate the scene, it's a lot of innuendo in it. All I'm going to say is I can't remember the last time I laughed so hard at a television show. Guys, you got to be watching Lucifer. Ryan Trabuco writes, "The first box office tracking numbers for Captain Marvel have it at 140 million plus opening weekend. If reviews are stellar, it's possible that the numbers could go higher. I believe the first Black Panther tracking numbers were at 125. A lot will have to do with word of mouth.
Yeah. Absolutely.
A lot will have to do with rent. Now, look, I still don't think. Then again, I was 100% convinced that Aquaman would hit $1 billion, so take this for what it's worth. But I don't think Captain Marvel will hit $1 billion. But listen, like I said the other day, Ann and I got online. We looked at like 4 different theaters and could not find an empty seat to buy tickets for opening night. The tracking numbers are the fastest selling tickets in any MCU movie other than Infinity War and Black Panther. If the reviews come out and are solid, we could be looking at 150, 160, 170 opening weekend. I mean, it's not inconceivable.
No, and as I said yesterday, or we were saying before, the geek bubble, we might not have been overwhelmed by the trailer, but that doesn't mean the rest of the world that isn't watching shows like this aren't very, very excited about it.
Yeah, and the Marvel people know how to market to the general audience.
Yeah.
They know how to market to us geeks, but they also know very well how to market to the general audience. Let's see how this thing kind of turns out. Ryan follows up with, also, super chat shout out to Ray and fact checker Jonathan. There you go, Ray. Yeah. Shout out to you. Shout out to fact checker Jonathan. Ryan, it's always nice when the peons get a little bit of love. Oh, what? You didn't hear Jonathan goes, we're fading to black. Okay, where are we at here? Baby Boy 8603 writes, hey, John, does Ann also enjoy The Money Pit and The Burbs? Those are my Tom Hanks favorites. Thanks for all you do. You could have a 4-minute YouTube video of Tom Hanks taking candy from children, and Ann would love it. She's a Tom Hanks guy all the way. Absolutely a Tom Hanks guy all the way.
How excited is she for Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Oh, she's losing her mind. She's losing her mind. Tom Hanks is her all-time favorite human being. Like, she doesn't have a crush on Tom Hanks like she does on Justin Timberlake. She just thinks he's the ultimate human being. Like, if Ann was, seriously, if Thanos came down and said, look, I will, with my Infinity Gauntlet, I will grant you one of 2 wishes. One, you could live a long, happy, joyous, married life with John Campea. Or you can have coffee with Tom Hanks one afternoon. I'm dust. I'm dust at that point. That's just simply what's going to happen. Let's see. Nicholas Glenn writes, what do you think of Disney taking control of SWT Vader Fan Film? I think it's petty and George Lucas would have never done that. Well, I haven't read anything about that. All I'll say is this. As my friend Robert Meyer Burnett knows full well.
Yes, I do.
When you start making things based on properties that you don't own and somebody else owns, you're kind of asking for it at this point. Now, especially now that we have press, we know what happens to stuff because of, the experience you had with Axanar and stuff like that. Very famously, Paramount sued you guys for that film you were putting together.
Luckily, not me.
Not personally.
Only
no.
the person that I went through the entire experience with and stood by, he wants to sue me, but Paramount doesn't.
Yeah, it's look, if you're making something that doesn't belong to you,
right?
I mean, and so if you're doing this Star Wars, and look, I understand. You and I had these conversations with the Axanar stuff was going on, and you always said to me, "Look, I get it. Studios need to protect their IP.
Yeah,
we all get it." And
what I heard was that it was monetized on YouTube,
right?
And that's a no-no. I mean, the studios can't allow you. You cannot make money off someone else's IP.
Yeah,
period.
And if I say they've taken over, it's like Disney is now. By the way, that happens all the time. Like, you can make something if you have some content, some copywritten content in something. Often the copyright owners, all the revenue for that video will be diverted to them. And if they made this movie of IP that doesn't belong to them, belongs to somebody else, if all Disney did, and I don't know for sure, I don't know, but I'm saying if all Disney did was reroute and they get the revenue for it, that's actually kind of right.
Yeah.
It's proper. It's the rights holder.
Absolutely.
They get it. So, I mean, it's not the popular thing to say, but it's kind of true. All right. 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up here today. Where were we at here? Okay. Punet Singh writes, another super chat shout out to Ray and fact checker Jonathan. Did you see the new Netflix movie I.O. with Anthony Mackie? No. And I'm going to totally sidetrack your super chat there, Puneet, because there's another Netflix movie you and I just talked about briefly with a trailer that came out with Mads Mikkelsen called Polar. Oh my God. I cannot wait. I haven't seen the I.O. one.
I've seen the trailer. I didn't know
How is it?
I didn't know it dropped. It looked great to me.
What's it about?
It's about like everyone has to leave Earth because Earth is dying. and the Anthony Mackie and a woman have to like make it across the frozen wasteland of what used to be America to get to the ship that's going to take them to Io, the moon of Jupiter that everybody's moving to. It looks great. I didn't know it dropped. I'll watch that. I'll go watch it right now.
All right, last two questions. Zombatron 5678 writes, Far From Home looks great. By the way, Marvel blocked out the year date on Peter's passport. Could still be a great prequel. Well, I pointed that out. Actually, that one came in just a few minutes after the show started. So you didn't, yes, he did block out the date. I put that out on Twitter earlier today. And again, it's just, I still think it happens after Endgame. I was like, why did they do that? It's a very, very interesting thing. All right, Jonathan Walls writes, I started back to college last week. Good on you, man. Congratulations. And my first entertainment and media studies class. Everything the professor taught, I already learned by watching your show. Should I drop out of college and watch the John Campea Show full time? Well, I think you found a deeper level of wisdom there. I think you can pretty much forsake everything for the John Campea Show. No, but I would be funny to go up to your professor and ask, hey, did you guys, by the way, Anne just recently did, she's taking her second master's degree right now. And she's got to submit these video reports.
What an underachiever.
I know, right? She just sits on her ass all day. That's all she does. And she has to submit these video reports. So she does them from my set, just because I've already got the camera set up whenever, right?
Sure.
And like the professor saw, I was like, hey. So just saw the John Campea Show set from my home studio. It's like, wait a minute. Anyway, there's a little thing there. Let's see. But seriously, Jonathan, no. Listen, guys, to at the risk of sounding like an old G.I. Joe now you know infomercial, stay in school, kids. Stay in school. But that's exciting that you're taking an entertainment and media studies class. It's exciting that these types of classes exist now. Because like 15 years ago, media and entertainment, was
not like now. I mean,
not like
certainly.
now.
But it's not just whatever you're interested in college, your main focus. It's everything else you learn in college as well. You're going to take other classes that suddenly you're going to find things you're going to be interested in that you don't even know yet. So a good general education never hurt anybody.
Never hurt anybody. Listen, guys, that's all the time we have for today. The Dropkick Aggie, Christian, Corey, Javier, Steve, Thunder Knight, Trey, Pianso, all you guys who still have super chat questions in there, do not worry. I'm going to copy all these questions. I'm going to take them home, and I'm going to make, just for you guys, I'm going to make a companion video just so we answer all of your questions that you guys sent in. So they will be answered in an upcoming companion video. Keep your eyes open for that. All right, hey Jonathan, you want to switch us to that glorious wide shot for a second? And let's go to the other wide shot there, and then I'm going to have Jonathan come on out here, Ray come on over here, Ashley come on over here. So happy that you guys, a couple of you guys mentioned in the super chats today, giving a shout out to Jonathan, giving a shout out to Ray. Sometimes some of you guys have never even seen these folks. I'm going to have them come in. These guys, these folks here are actually even more responsible.
Come on,
Crouch,
guys, get down.
Crouch.
Yeah, get in
there
here.
we go. There, so people can see you. Are like if not more responsible for the success of the show. Ray working so hard on graphics, segmenting, all that kind of. Jonathan does all the production in here. Ashley is actually one of our new members to our team, and you're going to see her on the show. Actually, most of her stuff is going to be behind the scenes, but she's going to take over. She's going to give my throat a break by doing a lot of the reading of the emails and the viewer questions. We're looking forward to that. So yeah, look, guys, people knew you existed and gave you shout outs today.
Here we are.
And here we are. All right, that's enough. Enough screen time for you. Yes, you got to go back to end the show. Listen, guys, thank you again for being here, a part of the show today. It has been an honor and privilege to have you here. Always an honor and privilege to have Robert Meyer Burnett here. Robert,
and to be with you. I love working with you.
Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, where people accuse me of being a gatekeeper, which is ridiculous because I'm all inclusive. You can find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or you can find me on my YouTube channel, The Burnettwork, or you can find my website, theburnettwork.net. Check it out. There's new content there almost every day.
And you guys, of course, can follow me on Twitter at John Campea and on Instagram at John Campea. You guys can find me there. And, of course, you can find us, both of us, back here tomorrow on the next episode of The John Campea Show. Make sure you guys come back and join us then. Guys, by the way, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, look in the description of this video, link to our Patreon stuff, some perks our Patreon supporters get there. Keeps the show on the air. Thank you, especially to all of our Patreon supporters. That'll do it for us for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until the next episode, bye-bye.